Tov. It's great to see you again. Great to be here at Congregation B'nai Yeshurun. I'm Rabbi Enid later, if we haven't met before, and great to see people who I have seen before, and I think there's some new faces around the table too. So it's great to have you. So we're at Parshat Vayetze, and in the Eitz Chaim, it's on page 166. Begins there. And before we begin with our study, we'll begin with the blessing for engaging with words of Torah. La'asok b'divrei Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe. You have made us holy with your sacred responsibilities and have enjoined us to engage with words of Torah. So at this point in our Jacob story, is there someone who could give us a kind of Reader's Digest version of what has happened and where we are? Yes.
Jacob unfortunately is in deep lentils with his brother.
Good expression.
Having stolen the birthright from Esau, and the mother Rebecca, who had attached this plot, sending him off to her brother.
Right, for safekeeping, and to do what? What is his mission?
Get married.
To get married, that's right, to get married, because we find out that Esau has married from the women in the area, that Rebecca tells Isaac, but these women, no, we have to get him from my family, it'll be much, much better. And so she sends him, they both sent him off to find a wife and for his safekeeping. He has not only stolen, as they say, they tricked his brother Esau out of the birthright because Esau was born first as the first twin brother to be born, and but he's also the blessing, right? He's been tricked out of the blessing, and so Jacob now has this blessing, but he's a man on the run, and that's where we find him at the beginning of our Torah portion. So this morning, I thought that what we would do, yes.
Is that actually a pasuk where Rebecca tells Jacob go get married?
Yes,
Where is it?
yes. So if we, let's see. Look back into Toldot.
I don't think he tricked his brother out of the blessing. He tricked his father.
He picks his right.
Brother, yeah.
His
Brother out of the
too.
Father. Was
No, but that's even worse. I mean, it's not like sibling rivalry. It's like rebellion against the parent.
Rebellion against the parent. That
never happens.
That's a great conversation for last week. And or for next year, but yes, you're right. There's definitely some trickery that is going on. If we turn to chapter 27, verse 46, which is on page 159 in Eitz Chaim. Tomer Rivka El Yitzhak, Rebecca said to Isaac, I am disgusted with my life because of a Hittite woman. If Jacob marries a Hittite woman like these from among the native women, what good will life be to me? So Isaac sent for Jacob and blessed him. He instructed him, saying, you shall not take a wife from among the Canaanite women. Up, go to Padan Aram, to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father, and take a wife there from among the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. May El Shaddai bless you, make you fertile and numerous, so that you become an assembly of peoples. May he grant you the blessing of Abraham to you and your offspring, that you may possess the land where you are sojourning, which God has assigned to Abraham. Then Isaac sent Jacob off, and he went to Padan Aram to Laban, the son of Bethuel the Aramean, the brother of Rebekah, the mother of Jacob and Esau. And so that's how Jacob,
Thank you.
you're welcome. That's how he gets on the
I
road.
remember.
Sure.
And it's
And-
really very interesting because it's a major event in human life.
Yes,
Right.
that's right.
And
Get
the
married.
fact that she actually taught me so clearly. Very interesting.
Yes, yes. And why is she doing this? I mean, and then of course, if we read before that, we find out that Rebecca hears that Esau is planning to take care of his brother, to kill his brother, right, as soon as dad dies, right? And that's going to take actually quite a long time in the scheme of things, because ultimately, spoiler alert, Isaac will die, but the brothers will have come together to bury him. So there is, and as we know that there's a reconciliation of sorts between them. So what I thought we would do today is begin this Torah portion on page 166 and read through the first part of the portion that pardon me, that finishes up chapter 28. And then we're going to look at some pieces of art that provide a sense of midrash and maybe see the scene and what has happened through the eyes of some different artists. Some of them Christian, some of them Jewish, one of them Jewish. But if you had a chance to take a look at the attachment before you came, then you have an idea of what's in store. And if for those of you who are zooming in, if it's possible when we get to it, to open the attachment so that you can see the pictures, because I have a feeling it's going to be pretty hard to see them if I hold them up from here. But we'll do our best. And then we'll go to the last section of the Torah portion and see how this portion is actually set apart by bookends. Okay, so we start at the beginning, and would you like to start with reading?
Okay. Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. He came upon a certain place and stopped there for the night, for the sun had set. Taking one of the stones of that place, he put it under his head and lay down in that place.
Okay, so let's stop right there for a second, okay? So hi there, great to see you. How comfortable can that be? Sleeping your head on a stone.
Surely he must have had something else when he said all that was a little salty.
Maybe he has a little something on that, right?
Right.
Right, but so he's in the wilderness, right? He really is. And there's no comforts for him. There's no creature comforts. His head he's using a stone for a pillow, and he's gonna fall, he's come to the end of the day, he's going to fall asleep. Okay, he stops for the night, and in actuality, this is and his encounter with God is one of the 3 examples of why we have the morning, the afternoon, and the evening prayers. In the Talmud, the rabbis are talking about, why Shachrit, Mincha, and Mariv. And there will be those who will say, well, it's because of the different times of the sacrifices. But another rabbi is going to say, no, it's based on the three forefathers, so to speak. Abraham, and they'll give textual example. Abraham goes out in the morning, and that serves as for Shachrit. Isaac encounters, goes out into the field in the afternoon, and that becomes the mincha. And Jacob stops for the night, and he does have an encounter, and that's the mariv. Yes.
Why does the word makom, why is that repeated 3 times in just those short 2 sentences?
That's a great question. So the question is, why is the word makom repeated 3 times?
It means place.
Right? So A, we have a sense of place here. And
A holy place.
I'm sorry,
Holy place.
it's ultimately, we're going to hear about it at the end of his dream experience. that God, Mano Ra Hamakom Hazeh, how awesome is this place, right? So ultimately, the word, it's going to have a very, it has a very, we're given a very sense of place, and God is also going to be in this place. And Makom, Hamakom, ends up becoming another name for God, which of course is understanding it after the fact, right, of the text, but it's overlaying this really interesting idea about that. Thank you, that's a great question.
Isn't that the same place that Jacob later on called Beit El, house of God?
Yes,
That's the same place, that's the same.
yes, at
Makom.
the end of his, right, exactly.
So Jacob kind of really blesses it, and calls it a holy place.
He does, that's right. And as we will see when he wakes from his dream. Okay, yes,
We might have studied this here. I know, look at Moshe when he came to the burning bush, when he knew it was a place of God, he had to take his shoes off. The physical contact with the ground mirrors, I think here, the head on the stone. Also, it's the physical contact. There's nothing between
sure,
the man.
very
and-
true.
Yeah, so
And the ground.
I don't know if that it is expressed anywhere else, but those two examples at least strike me as being
Sure.
parallel in some ways.
That's
the
right. There's
holiness of
nothing
the
comes
place.
between.
Right, nothing
Right,
comes between.
exactly. Great, thank you. Care to continue?
Okay. He had a dream. A stairway was set on the ground, and its top reached to the sky, and angels of God were going up and down on it.
You, okay, so here we have this Hebrew word sulam, which can mean ladder or steps, a stairway going up. Every time I read this, I always think da 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 da, and they're climbing a stairway to heaven. Right?
Still always wonder architecturally, had they, at which period had stairways been invented? And, how would they have known about, how would they have known about stairways?
Sure. That's a great question. But go ahead.
For an architect, anyway.
Right, exactly.
One of the teachers in this session once commented on the fact that the angels go up and down, not
Yes.
down and up.
That's right.
And it just seemed unusual phrasing. up and
That's
down.
right. It's right, because you would expect, if you saw angels in a ladder, you would expect them to be coming down, right?
Yeah.
But in this case, it's up and down. So have we learned about what that could be according to different sources? Yes,
I mean, the other thing is with Noah and the Babel.
Yes.
Also like a stairway.
yes, that's
Yeah,
true.
sorry.
That's true. So already with the ziggurats, right? The
Yeah.
idea of getting higher and higher and closer to the sky and to heaven. But why angels going up and down a ladder? Why aren't they just coming down? So the rabbi suggests that there were angels. There were two teams. There's a team of angels that were accompanying Jacob on his journey up to a certain point. He's going to be crossing a boundary into a different land. And this is the changing of the guard. So according to one midrash, it's the changing of the guard. Angels coming up, goodbye, you'll be fine. And the next group coming down to take care of him. Okay, but he's not alone. Okay, one more. Oh, sorry, 13.
13, yeah. And the Lord was standing beside him, and he said, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, and the God of Isaac. The ground on which you are lying, I will assign to you and to your offspring. Your descendants shall be as the dust of the earth. You shall spread out to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south. All the families of the earth shall bless themselves by you and your descendants. Remember, I am with you. I will protect you wherever you go and will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I promised you.
Thank you. Okay. So have we heard this blessing before?
Abraham.
To Abraham. right? So this is God's blessing to Abraham, and part of it gets repeated to Isaac as well. And now Jacob receives this blessing. I'm sorry?
The song.
Yes, oof. Right, ufaratsta, 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 yama vakema, right? Okay, that's where that comes from, this idea of spreading out.
The idea that Chabad has taken up. And they are actually, you know, they are in every small nook of the globe.
Okay, right,
With that mission.
Right,
That's really what
right.
they have
that's
taken up.
true, that's true. Speaking of Chabad, and I realize that this is taking us to a different place, but did you happen to notice that they had their reunion of rabbis recently in Brooklyn? And there was a photograph of the thousands of them that had come in, and each year they gather for this very special photo. But that's, that's an image, right? And off they go. And actually, as I say this, it's also an image of, just think of what that means. You will spread out to the west, to the east, to the north, and the south. I mean, you're going to be all over. And for us, I guess what I'm thinking is that for us, it's like, what an image, right? Jews, wherever you go, this is a very musical morning. There's always someone Jewish. You're never alone when you say you're a Jew. And when you're not home and you're somewhere kind of newish, the odds are, don't look far, because they're Jewish too. And wouldn't that be wonderful, right? If wherever we go, right, that's what it seems like. But I want to also put in, on the other hand, when the children of Israel go down into Egypt, what is Pharaoh's concern? That we have become too numerous, right? Like swarming, that even the words are used are swarming words. So that it can be good for us and it can be perceived as not so good by other people, right? But the idea is, if those who bless you will be blessed, and those who curse you will be cursed, and we'll see how that.
I was gonna say, how could God have gotten it so wrong? Here he says, oh, all the families of the earth shall bless themselves by you and your descendants. And that really doesn't seem to have played out either in Torah or in history per se. So,
Yes,
what are we to make of that?
Maybe it's aspirational.
yes. I would suggest yes. I would suggest yes.
The Christianity kind of
Right.
comes from us, and so does Islam as
Right.
well, so maybe that's.
Right?
And Buddhism, oh wait,
Yeah.
right.
Different strand, but
Yeah.
that's okay. Yes.
At the risk of going too far with this idea of uparatsa, it really seems like sometimes that the idea of the Jewish people and the Jewish nation being dispersed all around the world for millennia is really kind of an express type of a thing by God, let's say, that God wanted the Jewish people to be dispersed to basically really bring goodness to humanity. Because it truly seems like nowadays that the salvation, of course, I'm biased by this, of all of those countries and nations around Israel, their salvation would only and only come from Israel, because they're the ones who have the brains to do something, they're the ones who have the will to do something, and going from there, I think the salvation to the entire humanity, at least to a good extent, to some extent, would come from Jews. That's going too far, I know, but that's what it seems like.
A
To
light
me.
to the nations. A light to the nation. There was a hand.
Oh, yeah. Even though God is saying we're gonna be numerous, as many as the stars and the sand on the earth, we've always been a minority.
Yes.
So I think that's fascinating to me that maybe we're not as many, maybe God didn't mean we'll be physically more than any other people, but maybe our influences and what we give the world.
That's beautiful.
That'll be huge.
I've thought about that quite a bit lately, which is that we are a tremendous minority. We're 0.02 of the world, 2% of the United States. And stems so many millennia ago when Jews decided not to proselytize. And so it kept us, very, very small. In fact, a month or so ago, we read maybe Rambam was in a handout that said that we must not proselytize. And so it kind of is in almost against the idea of being numerous and multiplying.
In a sense, I mean, we were, pardon me, it was a law legally, I'm sorry. We must not because we were on penalty of death. I have some, thank you very much. Yes,
It seems that there's credible evidence that approximately 10% of the population of the Roman Empire was Jewish. So at one time, we were a bigger minority relative to those who were Jewish. I'll just throw that out there.
But I think it depends where the Jews were. The
yes.
Jews were 10% of Poland before World War II.
Yeah,
And
the
now
Roman
we're
Empire was
bigger,
a much bigger.
Yes.
The other thing I just thought of this after, we read this year after year after year after year. And as it was being read, I just thought of this. It just seems like a curious turn of phrase. I wonder what the rabbis make of it. God was standing with him there. I mean, the only one that God talked face to face with, as it were, is Moshe. And yet he's standing with him there. God is standing with him there. I mean, it's figurative, right? It's not literal, but what's made of that? I just never thought about that.
Sure. I must admit, I hadn't seen comments about really based on that, but there's certainly, pardon me, God speaks face to face with Moses. We have that, but also Noah walks with God, right? And Abraham walks before God. I mean, there are, it's a dream, don't forget, right? Okay, yes.
But yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I usually think of the walking in a very positive way, like there's a path that either God's showing us or walking along and we're making progress. And so when we came to this with the standing, it wasn't so much a redirection. And in fact, the blessing or the prophecy that God gives is what we've already heard. So it's the standing I took as a continual reaffirming of what's already been said. We're not moving forward yet, but we're reiterating, and just like he's being sent back to that same genetic pool to find a wife. We're still formulating that early cohesive group of
Right.
what will become Jews, and so it's a standing rather than forward moving or walking. But that's just when I heard stand, that's what I thought. Who knows?
And-
I think,
God only knows.
the concept of Jacob being in liminal space here, in between two, he's leaving his home just like Abraham left his home. He's very frightened, very stressed. His brother, was threatening to murder him. But he's still not to a place where he's going to encounter a lot more trouble with his uncle or Rebecca's brother, his mother's brother, his uncle. So he's in this, he's discovering God. I believe he's discovering God here, and God is comforting him with these words, and he's planting a seed in effect in Jacob that he'll remember, that will be his guiding force in the future, but it's this concept of in between liminal space affects all of us. And fear and distress can be an important factor in discovering God, in wanting to pray, and looking for some kind of help and guidance. I think it's a key.
Sure,
And we see this here with Jacob.
sure. Thank you, yes. But he's not quite, yes, go ahead.
I think Bill's point is really interesting with the word standing, and I don't know Hebrew. What's the Hebrew word? How is it translated? Because we're saying the word standing and we're taking it as English, but what does the Hebrew say?
So it's interesting, the word is nitzav, which is an interesting word for standing.
Hmm.
Because nitzav, we're going to hear it later in the book of Deuteronomy, atem nitzavim, you stand here today. Standing, being ready to do something. A nitzaveh is a monument, which is connected with that word as well, like a headstone, right? And so standing, and there's a sense of permanence or, solidness
Like to be
to it.
present.
Yeah.
Like,
Which
Yes.
is different than omed. Omed is really the stand, the translation of standing. Nitzav means more like presence
Presence, right,
interesting.
and permanent presence.
right,
Armin Brett.
Doesn't a standing army mean that it's ready?
ready,
A standing army,
Very good.
yeah.
right. Jacob awakes. Yes, that's very, very nice. Let's go on with verse 16, and I'm sorry, I don't remember.
Oh, me, 16 was it?
Yeah.
Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, surely the Lord is present in this place, and I did not know it.
Okay, so we have to stop there, of course, because Jacob has been introduced to Adonai, Yod He Vav He, right? And in this place that's bereft of, the only thing that he could find for his head is a stone, right? So if we just think about that, where Jacob meets God in the middle of nowhere, in a sense, right? Such a hard scrap place. Think about where Moses meets God in a burning bush. And some people, and the commentary is it's like a thorn bush, right? Such a difficult place. So what can we learn from this? Right? What is this here to teach us? But that even in the most difficult of times, in the hardest of times, in the most challenging of times, when you're so afraid, when you're so stressed, that God is in this place and we should know it. Okay, yes and yes.
Also, it's interesting, Moses up on a high mountain and Jacob here in the desert. Maybe it's a metaphor like nothing should come between you and God. That you need a very empty, and maybe because God's presence is so great, that it fills even the most desolate area.
Sure. So even in the most desolate areas, we find God, but then we should also think about even in the most troubled areas, right? We could think of it for ourselves, but we could also think of it, as you drive downtown and you see some of the neighborhoods, right? That very difficult places, and yet God's presence is there too. In the Middle East, yes, definitely.
I'm seeing it as, he's saying God is in this place.
Uh-huh.
It means he wasn't in that place. So all of a sudden, he's seeing that, why did this place, God was never with him. He was brought up, in the house of Isaac.
Right.
And I'm not sure when it transferred theologically, I guess, to the idea that God is everywhere. He's saying God is specifically here. But he was never with me up until now.
Sure. So that's a great question, and he might, yes, go ahead.
At this moment, he's with them.
Uh-huh.
That's the way I understand.
At this moment, he feels his presence. The rabbis put Jacob in Jacob goes to a yeshiva, right? So he knows about God, quote unquote, right? But what we're talking about here is that even in this desolate place, right? God is in this place, but you can accent it differently. God is in this place, and I didn't even know it, right? Even in this place, there he is, right? Yes?
Yeah, I mean, because we're also usually taught like you're saying, he grew up in the village in the yeshiva, his brother was out in the wilderness, and was
Yes,
a hunter.
right.
And we often say, oh, it's the village dweller that we want to come from, and we don't want that barbarian hunter attributes. And yet it isn't until he entered that world of his brother, in a way, the stone, the desolate areas, that he truly comes to this revelation of God. It could be it's also, as you're saying, but it didn't seem to strike him in the yeshiva the way it
Right.
strikes him here.
So true. It never does. does it?
Never does.
And then we have to get to the artwork. Go ahead. Yes.
And where you're going, is kind of where I'm going, maybe even a little bit further, which is, I think this really resonates, at least with me, because it doesn't, every moment of every day doesn't necessarily feel out of the ordinary, if you will. And if we're looking for God, a lot of the times we're not even thinking about that. I know, in the day-to-day drudgery, so to speak, or what have you, you've got a lot of stuff to do. You don't think about anything really, except what you have to do. Then maybe it is in these crisis moments, but that poignant connection maybe is more apparent. And yet we don't, we always say, right, every morning, one of the things we say is, bring us not to translate or bring us not to trial or to disgrace. We don't want tests, we don't want challenges. And yet they come along anyway.
Right.
And so it really resonates if you could find God in that place. That's Jacob.
All right, and one more.
Phrase, how awesome is this place? This is none other than the abode of God, or the house of God. This is also an allusion I've read in commentaries to the synagogue. You come to the synagogue on Shabbat, for example, because, you're gonna be with the community, but, you're closer to the presence of God in a sense. I mean, God is everywhere, but the synagogue is a place that, where you think about it, you pray, and the idea that the gateway to heaven symbolizes prayer. So you have the symbolism of the abode of God, the house of God, synagogue, and the gateway as prayer.
Sure,
If you
sure.
heard that,
Yes, and it becomes that, right? It becomes that. So on the one hand, it becomes, the synagogue becomes this Beit El, right? This house of God, which he's going to name the place. Okay, two more, and then we have to go to the art. Okay.
I disagree with it. Sorry, but I disagree with it because in the depths of the camps, there was no God, there was no synagogue. And yet there were presence of God. The few people who survived, we can tell that they felt it, that they stayed alive because of God. So we go to synagogue not because of the presence of God in the synagogue, because as human beings, we need the connections, like page 13 in our every morning minyan, we say, we have to be all together. It's the klal and the prat and the prat and the klal. That's why we go to synagogue.
Yes.
How we can reconcile the thoughts that have been expressed, last few minutes, although comforting to know that we can find God in every place, but yet the rabbi stressed repeatedly that with Jews do not sanctify place, we sanctify time. Could you talk about that? Is there a contradiction there?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. It's Heschel that talks about Shabbat as a palace in time. We don't sanctifying place, when we find a place and we create community in that place, right? It becomes a sanctified place. When we find a place in the earth and sanctify that ground, it becomes a cemetery, right? We also, but we might have to move. We might have to go someplace else. And so we can't take we can't take the building with us. God bless, we can't take the ground with us, but we can take, what we can take with us is Torah. And what we can take with us is our calendar, which is the sanctification of time.
And emotions as well, what we
That's right.
become deeply connected with emotionally.
Yes, for sure.
Why do we
Sure,
say
you take that,
Kaddish
right.
every year?
Memory.
We have emotional connections
Right.
with those we've loved
Right.
and lost.
Exactly. Zachor, right? Remember, we take memories with us, and that's what we carry with us. I want to carry a museum with me wherever I go. Let's take one down and pass it around.
Drinking beer, huh?
I think I might have enough.
If not, we can share, of course.
Good thought to have if there's something of this deal.
Yes. Should be, they're making their way down. So for those who are zooming in, if it's possible that you have the you can click on the handout for today so you can see the pieces of art. That would be great.
Could you tell us the name and artist of the pictures?
Sure. So the first picture, the first painting that we're looking at is called Jacob's Dream at Bethel by Raphael. And Raphael lived between 1483 to 1520, fairly young. And this painting is within the Vatican Palace. And so as we look at this painting,
Nelson, can you mute, please? Thank you.
as we look at this painting, we see this is how, if you wondered how Jacob was able to sleep with his head on a rock, you see that he's able to, according to Raphael, right? So his midrash is, so he kind of leaned on it and kind of leaned on his arms. So, right? So he slept on his arms. Right. Definitely on the younger side. Okay. So this is not a ladder, but it is a stairway, right? And we have the angels going. You can see their directions, their angels kind of heading up, and then angels heading down. And who's at the top of the ladder? Right. We're not going to see this very often in Jewish paintings.
With
by
God
Jewish
or with
paintings. Right? I'm sorry?
Is it God or is this angel?
So this is God.
But we're told God's standing
Well,
with Jacob. Yeah.
we know this is
Pretend
God
it's everything.
because this conforms to all the what is it, the stereotypical ways that we thought of God. Perhaps many children think of God as the old man up in the clouds with the white beard and the flowing robes. Okay,
I thought it was the being without face and without hands and without.
Not for the Catholics.
not for the Catholics,
Okay,
not
that's
for the
fine.
Catholics.
So how do
Good
they,
point.
how do
Okay.
we, and they reconcile the angels with wings, because I assume they can fly, if they're walking?
Right.
Why aren't they just flying up and down rather than walking up and down?
Let's, so in this case, this artist is being very specific. Angels have feet. If there are steps, they're gonna use them as opposed to using their wings. Okay.
These would be attributes. So having wings tells you it's an angel. Having the white hair and the long white beard tells you a depiction of God, which you're not supposed to do.
Yes. Right, okay, so this is, it's, the ground is pretty simple. And of course, the, when you look at the picture, it does have a certain, triangularity, right? So, and the triangle is going to aim, your eyes will be veered, set towards the top of the triangle, which of course is where God is standing. Okay, according to Raphael. Okay,
You'll see in many old churches, that like, this triangle, and then there'll be this, sun sort of image, or this very
Yes.
bright, and that, yeah,
Right.
that's usually Christ or whatever.
Right,
So they
right.
maintain that throughout.
right,
history, that,
exactly,
you know,
exactly.
focus.
Okay. Any other comments? What is a fresco?
A wall painting.
It's a wall painting, right? So this is painting right on the wall. Okay, probably on the ceiling. Okay, here on the next page, we have a painting called Jacob's Dream by Giorgio Vasari II. And it was, he lived from 1511 to 1574, and this was probably done during around the 1557-58. Okay, and this gives you a little description of the painting based on the Bible. This large panel, apparently intended for a ceiling, was done by the painter, architect, and author Giorgio Vasari for the Florentine Marsilio degli Albizzi in 1558. The figures of God, the Father, and Jacob are based on famous frescoes by Michelangelo and Raphael in the Vatican. So I included the picture from Raphael first, so then we could see Vasari's depiction of God in this painting as well. And let's see, and then he wrote the first history of Italian art, in which he praised these Roman frescoes as the culmination of the art of painting. And so what do you notice about the angels, about the stairway, about Jacob, and about God?
It's just very loving with these little toddlers around him.
Sure.
Yes,
Very good
yeah.
father.
He's got a book too. What's God reading?
Right?
It's trouble falling asleep in it.
God is holding onto a book.
Could you explain, and I always forget, I think it's out of Christian stuff, God's fingers, Jacob's fingers, those finger motions often represent something.
There's kind of a blessing with that.
Yes, what's Jacob who's
Yes,
sleeping?
that too. Otherwise than peace.
Is that a bird next to
Yeah.
Jacob? And I don't remember the bird.
Bird.
Never more. To his left?
There's,
Or is that just
Huh?
like?
actually, I think that, so in the painting, we have Jacob lying down. I think we have his sack. I don't, his knapsack
It's not a bird.
and his walking stick.
No.
Okay, none of this is described, of course, in Torah. We have no idea, right, what he took with him. But in this case, he went through the New York Times and found through a wire cutter that this is the best backpack to have when you're traveling on your own. And then there's a walking stick here, okay? And again, the idea of using the pillow, stone for a pillow, he's just using his, stone as an armrest for him to try to sleep.
Clean shaven.
Okay,
They don't have his blanket or his thing, they're both in the color red.
uh-huh, right, so there's a theme in this pinkish reddish color, right? Jacob is covered with it. Some of as the angels get a little closer to God, there's one angel especially that has that pinkish reddish, and God too has that pinkish reddish color.
It's very muscular.
Looks like there's like
for not
the
being
two
a hunter.
staircase.
Very
Uh-huh.
muscular.
Yes,
The gym.
Went down.
All the angels seem to have the same hairstyle that Jacob.
It's the fashion.
And it looks like twins, maybe.
looks like don't forget, it's his dream.
Well, I like that God is not at the pinnacle anymore. He's been brought down closer to Jacob. as
Right,
a
God-
Storyteller.
Comes closer to stand next to him, right? Yes,
Both pictures are skewed, they're not centered in the picture.
uh-huh,
They're skewed for Raphael, is skewed to the left and Vasari, it's skewed to the right.
uh-huh,
If they were depicting a scene from the New Testament, it would have been more central.
Political
we
statement.
think the fact, because of the stairs, it's a I mean, they did that in order to be able to fit, would it have been, we might see some paintings that are longer because the stairway or the ladder is in the center, right? Maybe because of their space, they had to skew it a certain way. I'm just saying.
In my art history, talked about dynamic tension, and your attention, once the attention as the viewer is drawn more to the dynamism of it not being centered, but it
Uh-huh.
seeming to be moving from one side or the other.
For sure. And there's a little puff of cloud under God. Notice. Okay. Now we continue with Cornelius, Jacob's Delph, Jacob's dream. And this is very interesting. He lived from 1570-71 to 1643. This painting is probably from about 1605. So we have perhaps more now he's
So much
leaning,
rock.
Jacob is leaning against a tree with his arm up on a stone.
What's the name of the painter again?
Delph, Delff. And so where is
God's
God in this
everywhere.
painting? Or what is God? God is the light, right? God is the light. So he's moved us from a very, physical representation of God to this light.
Like it's very like. Deep looking, sounds like very manly.
Yes.
There in the face,
Right.
more mature looking.
The hair, the chest,
Yes,
and chest hair.
and chest hair too.
I'm intrigued because you've got those two angels talking, or so it seems, whereas in the other ones they're all, it really doesn't seem to, they're just kind of passing
Right.
each other. So to your point earlier, perhaps it's a changing of the guard.
Changing
Here's
the
things that got,
instructions.
don't forget,
Right.
he's got to take his meds at 10 and he's.
If this is Dutch, this is Protestant.
Right.
Yes, that's great. And that's very, very important to know.
And
And
no stairwell.
right, but there's
I mean, there's no stairway, and the angels, the two at the bottom who are facing each other, it looks like they're on the ground.
yes, And what are these other angels? What are they making their way down?
Yeah, just.
On cloud or
They look like rocks or clouds, like clouds, right? I mean, it is there's a darkness to this.
it looks more like stones.
He looks
Uh-huh.
like he's in a forest with a book.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is more, it's
Sure.
so real, more of a desert. Art, which means.
That's right, that's right.
It's also an example, discovered in the 1500s. And this is the first painting where it gives you a sense of depth, the illusion of depth, as the angels get smaller.
Uh-huh.
And
And the extraction on his face is very peaceful.
Right, it looks like
Comforted.
it's a good dream. He's relaxing, right?
It's not a sleep. It's not a nightmare.
Right,
He has a smile on his face.
right, exactly. And you can see the little gourd on at the bottom right of the painting, like perhaps to store water, to carry water. And his walking stick is on his right-hand side. And it ends up being on top of his body and then going down.
Suggestive.
Yeah, we won't go there, but.
Yeah.
Protective, right, that's right, that's right,
Well,
yeah,
use that language either.
right. Oh. What is similar about this painting and the, actually even Raphael, we start with Raphael and it's a light pink that is his, garment, so to speak, his cloak. And in the Vasari, it's, also a light pink getting a little redder. And then in the Delft, he still is covered, he has his cloak and now it's even darker.
yeah, some of it is related to what pigments
What
were
pigment
available.
are available,
what
that's
century.
right. Uh-huh. That's right, which is very cool. Ooh, okay, now we're going to Jacob's Dream. Second de Rivera, 1639. In Naples. And this is just Jacob dreaming. Right?
No ladder, no.
No ladders, no steps, no angels. But what becomes the ladder in the dream?
Maybe the tree.
No, the light.
Maybe the
light.
maybe the
Like
cloud.
the cloud, the lit cloud, right? Yeah, that's, so the ladder, that is implied, right? His souls are covered, that's right.
Can you say the name of the artist again? I'm sorry, I keep missing that.
That's okay, it's Giuseppe de Ribera, Ribera.
Working in Italy.
And this Jacob has dark hair and completely fully clothed.
Where's Ashkenazi now?
Yes, he's darker and the clothing is more reflective of his time, perhaps. His cloak is dark, right?
Couldn't afford the red paint, I guess.
So
Yeah, the face in the sky, yeah.
with regards,
Contrast between the dark garment and the image of light above
Yes.
his head
Mhm.
that made Bible better.
yes,
Who
I
would
think it
commission
really
this work?
sets off the dream part of the painting, what's going on there. Okay. I'm sorry,
In the Torah, typically, there's not a lot of physical description.
Right.
of people, but here we see the artist's vision.
yes,
All these portraits. Jacob he's big, he's strong, he's vital. He's about to meet Rachel, remove the rock from the well. and fall in love with her instantly. You
Right.
can kind of see he's
He's not a mama's boy.
right,
Right.
he's a vital guy.
Yes,
He's
he
ready-
is.
he's ready to move on.
Right, for sure. And we have to move on too. So we're going to. Yes, you can think about Art Chagall and his dreams, but let's take a quick look at our Chagall pictures, paintings. The first one is from around 1950, well, in the late 50s or 60s. They say 1967. But this is typical Chagall. Definitely more colors have been invented for painting. And we have a ladder that's on the right-hand side. And we have, it looks like it's possibly Jacob might be flying through here, or Jacob could be sleeping with the Torah. Or on the lower
He's
left,
laying there.
or he could be lying there with his arm around his head. Typical Chagall with the red rooster and a blue goat of some sort,
A woman carrying a baby.
and a woman carrying a baby. There's his village,
God in the middle.
the Chagall village, that's kind of off to the side of the angels,
The angel in the upper left with the person.
and an angel right with a person.
That's kind of an odd.
Is that him fighting with the angel?
It could be, this could be Jacob fighting, right? Wrestling with an angel.
Very good.
Thank you. It does, and it's next week.
Puts it all together.
Yes. Right,
Chagall read ahead.
right, and his name is changed too, yes, right, exactly. We should go to the next page. And
It's the same.
I just have a feeling there might be something here, if you look really carefully, that's going to surprise you.
The fallen angel? No. Oh, no, that's Jacob.
Wait a minute. There is a body in blue in the upper right.
There's a body in blue that is kind of in a crucifix
Christian kind of.
station, right? So here we have, and especially on, so we have, this is like a double painting,
Wow.
right? And we have Jacob in red. We have the angels going up and down. We have the ladder. We have also some of the animals, some more angels. And then on the right-hand side, we have an angel carrying a menorah, a lit menorah, right? Which could be Jewish tradition, it could be God's presence, right? But we also have this, what the artists and art critics call the Jewish Jesus. And what the commentary on that, not by the rabbis, but by the art world, Chagall himself, the Jews have gone through or going through at the time, so much pain and suffering. And the Jewish Jesus in the crucifix mode represents that. So if you look above the white wing of the angel.
It's at the right of the
What
angel.
do they make of the reality that the picture is not vertical, as would be typical of a Christian picture, but is
Flying.
Side.
Right, so that has to do with the dreamlike quality of Chagall's paintings. There's lots of people that fly through the air. As we know, there are couples, right? There are animals that fly. And this is just one of many examples of Chagall's Jewish Jesus or crucifix paintings, actually. And another reason that he drew them was to invite Christians to look at them, to look at the paintings, because they would look and they would see something that was something they could connect with. And then, of course, it was also an underscoring of the fact that Jesus was a Jew. On the next page, this was done during the period of the Yom Kippur War. And so these colors, this is Jacob's ladder also. And with the angels going up and down, there is no God, right, depicted in the picture. And the sky is this turbulent red. This is not a cloak. This is not a Renaissance pink red. This is the blood red of war. But there is one way that Chagall depicts God, and that's in the final painting.
Yeah.
There's the angels, and there's Jacob, and there's the Yod He Vav He at the
Yeah.
top.
But in the last one with the bottom left, you've got that angel
Yes,
upside down, and we saw that earlier. I thought it was like a fallen angel. Go back.
I don't think so. I think they're just, you know, they're flying,
They're flying,
Yeah.
okay.
right?
Headquarters.
Oh, you mean a few? This is his 5 years that we.
And that, my friends, concludes our session for this morning. Anu Ra Hamakom Hazeh, how awesome is this place? I would venture to say that God was with us this morning. Shabbat Shalom.